Hi everybody, welcome to Book Bites with Maggie. Joining me today is Pat. She is our Technical Services Manager here at Napanee Public Library. I'm the Youth Services Assistant, and together we have a great stack of books to go with our theme today. We are talking about books that are going to go with our Expand Your Horizons task list. This is the fourth year, is that right?
Fifth year. No, fourth
Next
year.
year
Yes,
is fifth year.
Fourth
Okay,
year.
this is the fourth year of Expand Your Horizons. What that is a task list. I should have printed one. It's a task list of different books that we try to read to open up our reading so that we're not always reading from the same genre. So one of them that we are doing for our 2022 cycle is a book that is from an author not born in the United States. And we came up with a great couple of stacks of books here. Obviously, it's not restricting other books. There's thousands and thousands of books out here in our collection, and you'll be able to find those by stopping by and seeing one of us staff members. But we think we've got a good kind of mix of genres, different age groups, and we're gonna see if we can find something for you guys to read. So I hope you're ready to join us. This is our 19th episode. I cannot believe it. Season 3, and we're still recommending new books. So we've got lots of time ahead of us. At the end of today's episode, we have a big announcement for 2023, so stick around. As we're reading through our books and showcasing what we have to share with you today, let's try to remember what formats they come in, right? Do you keep track of that? So that if a physical book is not your ideal way of reading, we'll see if we can find a different avenue to get those books into your hands. If you're a Napanee Public Library card holder, you'll be able to pick these books up by leaving us a message here in our comments, or if you give us a call, we can put them on hold for you and you can pick them up at your convenience. Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Okay, earlier this year, Reese Witherspoon, one of her book club picks was Counterfeit by Kristen Chen. Kristen was born in Singapore and has lived in multiple countries and now resides in the United States, but she fits our topic today, having been born outside of the United States. Counterfeit is about, it kind of takes place over multiple decades, but it is about a woman who was a trained lawyer. Should I set this here?
Sure.
There we go. She's a trained lawyer, and now she's a stay-at-home mom. She's got a 2-year-old son, and they think he's starting to have some behavioral problems, but it's not really that. It's more because he's being taught 3 different languages at a time, so he's very confused. So you get more of that in the storyline, but the deep dive into what is happening over the context of multiple decades is this friendship of not knowing where the give and take is. And so our main character, Ava, becomes reacquainted with somebody from Stanford she went to school with, and between her and Winnie, they create a counterfeit designer purse enterprise. Is that right? Business? Can it be a business if it's illegal? Okay, anyway, so it gets to be quite interesting reading this storyline. I felt like there was lots of emotions evolved in it, so I felt some empathy. There's lots of play on what would you do if you were put in the same situation as our main characters. And just the title alone makes you go, counterfeiting, you don't want to do that. Like, you just kind of want to push back. But when you're put into the character's shoes, that's what a great writer can do. You really are starting to question if you would do the same things or different. So I thought it was kind of a unique way of doing a book. Counterfeit is available as a book, an ebook, and an e-audiobook here in our Napanee Public Library collection. And it could be a unique read for you. Okay, once you do, 1, 2.
I'm not sure if I talked about this before. If I did, I'm sorry, but I'm going to talk about it again. This is In the Garden of Spite by Camille Bruce. She was born in Norway. This tells of a Norwegian immigrant, Brunhild, who followed her sister Nellie to Chicago to escape the abuse that she suffered when she was a kid at home. When Brunhild gets here, she changes her name to Belle, and she embarks on a new journey. And this new journey, where she meets a man, she marries him. They have children. The children just kind of disappear. They're not sure. Some people didn't even know they had children. And then he dies kind of from mysterious circumstances, but she collects the insurance money. And then she moves to LaPorte here in Indiana, and she meets another gentleman. And he kind of comes to an untimely death too, where she's like, well, he was reaching for something up high on a shelf, and this meat grinder just happened to fall on him, and he died. She got his insurance money too. So she set out putting letters in the Chicago newspaper saying that, you know, come visit me in LaPorte, we might get married. I'm looking for a husband, basically, is what she was doing. And there were some men who just kind of disappeared off the face of the earth. So, this is based on a true story. Belle Guinness is her name, and she's one of the first female serial killers, they believe, that worked here in the United States.
That's too close to home.
So it's quite an interesting book. So we have the book, and we have ebook and e-audio on Libby. So if you want to find out more about Belle, you can read this book. If you even want to find out even more about Belle, you can go up to LaPorte to their historical museum, and they have some interesting things on her too.
That's like the perfect October read.
Yes.
Like being super scary.
Is this historical fiction?
Yes,
then?
it's historical fiction.
So it could be a new genre too.
Could be a new genre, yes. Your turn.
Mine has a lot to do with death too. My next one. Okay, this is Jane Harper is probably one of the most recommended authors that I give to customers coming in to see us here at the library. She writes with a setting of Australia, but she was actually born in the United Kingdom and then relocated to Australia. So she has the context behind her of knowing both countries. In this one, it's a standalone. She does write a series as well, but the standalone of The Lost Men is a multi-generational family saga that takes place on a station. Now, a station is going to be like an Australian farm. I liked the way that she wrote her stories because we don't know Celsius. I don't know the metric system really well. So I found myself Googling a lot and learning along the way. And I think that's really fun with reading books from other cultures because you get immersed in the storyline. In this one, you've got three brothers. Two brothers live in one home with their mother and an extended family in that station, and then they are literal next door neighbors, but they live 3 hours apart because the station is about 2,000 square miles. Can you imagine your next door neighbor living 3 hours apart? So just being able to describe the setting was really, really cool to me. Now, what happens in the very beginning of this book is the two brothers meet at the fence line, and they discover their third brother is dead. And they don't know what happened. So now what's going to happen throughout the entire story is it's going to go back and forth between the people that are remaining. There's not a large cast of characters in this book. And so when you know that somebody ends up dead, is it somebody in this small cast of characters that is responsible for it? Or is it a suicide? Or is it this or that? What is happening? And that really, I liked it. It was a very, very interesting read for me. And if you like the author, this might be one that you haven't read. She's also responsible for The Dry. She wrote, that one was made into a movie. It has like Eric Bana in it. Is that right? I haven't seen the movie, but that is one of her books. She also wrote there's one about a woman in the title. But just a fantastic author. I didn't realize that she had ever lived any place else besides Australia because her writing is so phenomenal. But here we can add her to our list because she was born in the United Kingdom. The Lost Man is a book, an ebook, and an e-audio book here in our library collection.
This book is actually the first of a series by Oliver, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, Poch, something like that. He is German. He also... And this is called The Hangman's Daughter. And the author also comes from a family of hangmen, which is, I find, kind of interesting. So he's kind of writing...
What is a hangman? Okay, there you go.
A hangman
I was like, is it what it sounds like?
The executioner back in the 1600s.
Okay, so
That's what he is, yes.
Okay. I wasn't sure either.
So
Thank you for asking.
he knew how to torture people. And
goodness.
he knew how to heal them. Well, I know.
Such a dark list of books here.
Hey,
I'm sorry.
Spooky season. We're here for
The
it.
German teacher at the high school, Frau Grimm, told me about this book many years ago, and I just found it fascinating. But anyway, so Jacob is the father, and he's the executioner. So, and he also tortures people. So he knows how to hurt people, and then he knows how to heal them so that he can execute them.
Because killing somebody who is like bravely ill
they don't do that. So the series features his daughter Magdalena. I guess I like weird books. I don't know. And it takes place in Germany in the 1600s. The Jacob is the hangman of the 5th generation of executioners. So it goes. It's a family line, and he's also a medicine man.
Joni said handy.
Andy, what?
I think she means like, oh, that's a handy book.
Oh. So Jacob and the midwife in town are kind of the people that people go to when they're sick to get cured. And the midwife, because she deals with women, of course, is always suspected of being a witch. So in this town, okay, here we go. Somebody starts to kill children.
Oh my gosh.
And the midwife is suspected because she's a midwife and, she deals with women, so therefore she has to be a witch. So this then kind of follows the journey into figuring out who actually is killing the children. So it's considered a historical thriller. It's got kind of mystery in it. Like I said, this is the first of the series. We only have it in book form.
Up?
Each of them can be a standalone, but the characters continue on. But each book is a different.
I don't want to read a whole series about missing
How many
children.
are
Well, they're not all about missing children. They're all about different things. So
Okay.
How many are there?
there's at least 6, maybe 7.
Oh my goodness, that's a lot.
So that is a lot.
Are they all kind of dark and twisty?
Yes.
Hey.
They are kind of dark and twisty.
Okay, so sorry, we interrupted you. What format does that one come in?
We only have it in book form.
In book form. Okay.
So if you're interested in kind of a dark book, this is the one for you.
There you go. One of our other themes that we're doing for Expanding Horizons this year is a debut author. My next book here just came out in August, and fits in that topic as well. So Dirt Creek by Haley, I don't know how you say her last name.
Shrivenor?
Shinob. I don't know. She's from Australia. And this book takes place in Australia. Dirt Creek features around a very small, close-knit Australian town. And in the storyline here, everybody kind of knows everything. And that's not uncommon in small towns. I feel like we had a small towns book bites a couple of years back. And when you're following through a small town and a crime happens, everybody wants to have their 2 cents thrown into the pot. So the point of view takes place not only from the mother of the little girl who was found killed, murdered. Oh,
There we go.
I didn't make that connection either. There we go. So you have the before, during, and after from all the different people in the community. So all of the classmates are telling their 2 cents. The neighbors are saying this and that. And so it felt like a total mashup, a very unique way of telling a story that is totally fictionalized. So you have not only the acting police investigator detective, her name is Sarah, but also Esther, who's the one who ends up dead. You get her mother, you get her mother's friend, and they're all trying to piece together what they know for the bigger picture. So it's a very unique read. If you like books similar to Leanne Moriarty, I felt like I could make comparisons to her writing in this one. So I hope to see a lot more from Haley. Dirt Creek is, again, a new book. As of right now, we only have it available as a book. I wouldn't be surprised if in the next couple of months it is also available in e-formats as well. So we'll have to keep checking back on that one.
So I have a question.
Yes.
When you read these books by foreign-born authors, is a lot of the lingo different?
You mean like different ways of saying things?
So like, kind of like slang or like phrases that are popular in like other countries, like
Yeah, but you can usually
like
figure it out
mom
in
instead of
context.
mom, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, is that in a lot of these books?
I mean, for mine, I would say yes, because especially the ones, like, I didn't know what a station was. I had to look that up. And again, I had to do all the metric conversions for my Australian title. I'm trying to think here. I think it was in Counterfeit, I had to do a lot of money translations because I didn't know the context of like how much money they were talking about. In this one, there might have been a couple words I had to look up. There was another one that didn't make my stack. That one had a lot of French in it, and that I did not know, and I couldn't pick that up because they would just use, if there wasn't an English word equivalent,
They would just put in the French phrase.
they would just put in the French phrase, and then I could not figure it out from context what they were saying. So sometimes that does happen. Can you speak to some of them in your stack?
I think basically this is the only one that has, because it was set in China, that has Chinese phrases, but they're in English, but they're still, you know, Chinese phrases.
So you're not
No,
totally
no,
lost.
no.
Yeah, pretty safe. Yeah, that's a good question. Do you want to share your next book?
Okay, the next book, I don't want to say it's a little more lighthearted, but it kind of is. It's Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, who was born in South Africa during the apartheid. His father was Swiss and his mother was African, and he was basically born a crime because his parents should have never gotten together and had him. So they had to keep him in the house when he was young. If he was out with his mother, she was always afraid that somebody was going to say, "You're stealing my child," or has stolen another child, because he could pass for white. So this is just kind of some reminiscings about stories from his youth and how his mother was a very important person in his life, and that she let him know that, you know, it didn't matter what he wanted to do, that he could overcome any of the obstacles that were in his way. And now he's, you know, on TV, and he's a stand-up comedian, and he's kind of done well for himself.
I feel like that should be very historical, but it's not.
No, but it does delve into what apartheid was about, you know, and you know, the African Americans had to do this, and the white people could do this, and just, yeah, all the differences there were back then.
Wow, it's so eye-opening when a book does that. I think, was that one made into a movie?
I don't think so. I don't know, but we have it in book form, and it's an ebook on Libby.
That one's been recommended to me so many times, and I have never read it, but it's still on my radar. There's just not enough time. The next book in my stack is The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections by Eva. Again, I don't know how you say these names. How do you say that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Eva Jersice.
Your size, something like that. I don't know.
It's another debut author. I have this thing about covers of books, and we're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. I do, I admit it. And I think my biggest disconnect from this storyline was my protagonist did not match the main character. Does that make sense? Like, the cover art did not match.
Yes.
So, like, okay, looking at my cover here, Michaela, you're standing behind the camera. How old do you think my protagonist is going to be?
20s?
She's been married 40 years and is close to
Oh
retirement.
my gosh.
Oh my goodness.
It's not a rom-com?
Wow.
It's not a romantic comedy?
It is not. It is not a romantic comedy. So this is
looks
going to
like
be
the
like a
cartoon.
cozy mystery. And I think that was like my biggest hurdle. Like I kept reading and going, no, she looks like this. You know, like it kind of hindered me from actually totally being immersed in our story. But it is a cozy mystery. So as you're reading about Liesel, she is a rare books librarian at a major university. She works daily wearing gloves and in isolated rooms where she's looking at very old archival texts of extreme value. And her department head is taking a leave of absence, and while Liesel is put in charge, this very, very rare manuscript goes missing. And she's ready to call the cops from day one. Like, this, she doesn't know what to do. She's in charge. This book needs to be relocated. And the university is more worried about all the donors and the money coming in. And so they don't want her to say anything. The mystery starts to spin. And as she trying to figure out where this book is, more things start happening, more books go missing. She starts to question the people around her. So it is an immersive story. I just, again, had that big disconnect from, no, she's wearing orthopedic shoes. No, she cannot move that fast when somebody's chasing her. Like, I just, every single thing that I felt came back to that vision of my character in my head as I was reading. But anyway, it was a good cozy mystery, so if you're looking for one of those, I highly recommend it. It comes out of out of Canada. So this is based in Toronto. Again, it is a debut author, and we'll see if we get some more cozy mysteries out of her. The Department of Rare Books and Special Collections is available as a book, an ebook, and an e-audiobook.
So the next book I'm going to talk about, like I mentioned, is set in China. It is by Lisa C. And Lisa C.'s great-grandfather was Chinese. He was a Chinese immigrant who lived in the Los Angeles area. So this is about Lily. Lily, as an older person, is kind of reminiscing on her life. And she tells the story of her and her friend Snowflower, who became friends at the age of 7. And I can't remember what the word is. But there's a word that they use because they paired up these two girls and they're like friends for life. And so they create secret messages on fans and in other things, and the messages are things, they have a unique language, the Chinese women have a unique language that the men don't know about, so that they can communicate back and forth. So this follows her life from being little, and she was a woman of high respect, or her family was a well-regarded family. So she was expected to have her feet bound, and they talk about that and how painful it is, and the bones have to break. I mean, it sounds horrible. You kind of wonder why anybody would ever have their children do this, or people do this to their children. But these women weren't expected to basically do anything. They were just kind of there. They would knit, they would embroider, do those kind of things, but they weren't. They had to be carried if they went someplace because they couldn't walk on their feet. So this is just the story of her and her friend, and how they kept in touch with each other, and the story of, each of them getting married and having children and all of them. So it was a very interesting story. I learned a lot about Chinese culture that I did not know. It's considered historical fiction, and we have it in book and e-audio and e-book on Libby.
I've heard really good things about all of her books, and I don't think I've read any of them. But I'll have to have that one on my radar too. The next book in my set seems to be all over TikTok at the moment, at least the ones that I am seeing. The Love Hypothesis by Allie Hazelwood is her first book in a series. These are the STEM novels, and then she's got a set of novellas as well. Allie actually was born in Italy, and she has lived in different countries before she now resides in the United States. She is a trained student. She has a PhD degree in neurosciences.
I think so.
Does that sound right? Yes, a PhD in neuroscience. And now she's an author too. Could you imagine having a resume like that? The context of our book is about the STEM sciences, and the theme overall for this one, it has a powerful message of the way that women are treated when they have male counterparts that they're kind of talked down to. And so it's a romance, it's an open door romance, very descriptive romance scenes, but the overarching theme of striving for equality stands out as being a very, very well-rounded book by an extremely smart author. Olive and Adam in this one, they just have their own little meet cute, and it is a fake dating trope that will stay with you for a long time, and you're going to root for them. And then the characters kind of intertwine in some of her later books. So this is the first one again in this series. We do have the next 3. Is there 3 out right now?
And technically, there's only book 1 and 2.
And the rest are all novellas?
The rest are novellas.
Okay.
Well,
Maybe I didn't write it down.
There's a pink one.
I know.
No, I just read that, and it was book 2. So yeah, there's
okay,
only
so there's
2 books.
two,
Yeah.
two like
novels.
And then the others are novellas.
Yeah.
So
That one's got some definite trigger warnings, though, doesn't it? For like
this one,
yeah, sexual assault.
yeah, there's sexual assault in the workplace and all kinds of stuff in this one.
Harassment.
So Olive and Adam, great protagonists. If you are looking for a romance, this one's gonna have some oomph behind it. Again, Allie was born in Italy, and we have this one available as a book, an ebook, and an e-audiobook.
And I forgot to say that Lisa was actually born in France, which is why it counts as a person born outside of the United States.
I think like there's so many of them that like we're used to seeing their books, and so we're not processing that they were born elsewhere.
Yes.
So our next title here is exactly that.
So this is called The Remarkable Journey of Coyote Sunrise by Dan Gemmenhart. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And he is German. And when I showed this to Maggie, she's like, oh, I didn't know he was German.
No, I didn't, and
So-
I've read that book like twice. I love it.
So this is the story of Coyote and her dad, Rodeo, who've been living on the road in an old school bus for 5 years. And the reason they're on the school bus is because Coyote's mom and sister were killed in a car accident, and this is the way that Rodeo is kind of dealing with what has happened in his life. And along the way, they meet a bunch of people and they help them out and try to do good in the world. And then Coyote finds out that a beloved park that her and her mom and her sister buried some items in is going to be demolished and torn up. So she comes up with a way to get her father to drive across country back to Washington so that she can go get the things that were that they had buried before the
The tree's
park
torn
gets
out.
park gets torn up. So this is a children's chapter book, so it's downstairs in the children's department. We have it in book form. Libby has it in e-audio, e-book, and then Hoopla also has it as an e-audio. It's just a cute little story about...
But it has some strong themes in it
Yes.
too. I mean, just the emotional side of what grief can look like in different people.
It seems like a very American road trip type
Yes.
of vibe,
Yeah.
though.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
'cause it's
unique coming from a foreign-born
yeah,
author.
it takes place here in the United States.
So when you found out that he was born in Germany, did it say how old he was when he relocated?
I don't remember reading that, no.
Because like if you're thinking about it, like an author could be born overseas because their family was in the military or whatever, and they might not have
Yeah.
resided there long enough, but they can say they were born in a different culture.
Right.
So it's interesting. The next book, we've had a lot of different types of themes here and different books from different genres. The next one is going to be like a near distant future. So like hasn't happened yet, but it feels like it could happen any day. This one was written just a few years ago, and in the midst of feeling like every single time you watch the news, what more could happen, this book is being published. And I wanted to read the back excerpt to you because I feel like I could not do it justice. In a horrifying near future United States, 17-year-old Layla and her parents are forced into an internment camp for Muslim American citizens. With the help of new friends who are also trapped within the internment camp, her boyfriend is on the outside. In an unexpected alliance, Layla begins a journey to fight for freedom, leading a revolution against the camp's director and his guards. It is a heart-racing, emotional read that challenges readers to fight against complicit silence that exists in our society today. Holy cow. It's like a call to action in a cutesy little cover. And the whole entire book, you just feel angsty and you feel like what you're doing is not enough, and you feel guilty for sitting there reading it instead of being out and picketing and protesting against the things that are happening. Our author here, Samira Ahmed,
That's what I would say.
was born in India and now lives in London. So I thought it was interesting that she was writing from a context, again, futuristic, but in a culture that she's not living in. So oftentimes we're reading those books, they can put in those personal descriptives because that's where they live. In this one, she lives in London and she's writing about the United States. So it makes you wonder how much of our news is moving across the oceans and where people are making their own decisions about our government and about all these different things. So we have Internment available as a book, an ebook, and an e-audio. And again, it just kind of feels like a drive to do something more. Okay, the next two we're both going to talk about, and I'm so excited.
We both love this book.
We did.
The Secret Life of Albert
And
Entwistle. Yes, and it's by Matt Cain, and Matt is born in the United Kingdom. So I don't know, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
I can.
Okay.
So, this one, it was a whole journey for me. So you were talking about Coyote Sunrise being like a traveling book. I would definitely call Albert along those same lines. So he is an elderly man. He's 64, rather reclusive. He lives by himself, has like a routine.
He's a postman.
He's a postman.
So he delivers mail, and that's kind of his
That's the only thing
yeah,
he
that's
does.
what he does.
He
Just
delivers the mail and he goes home.
Yep.
And he hangs out with his cat Gracie, and then he delivers the mail the next day. And he has such a cycle to his day that when something major happens, he is kind of forced into retirement by the Royal Mail. So just shortly before his 65th birthday,
Right, yes.
is that right?
Yep.
He gets a letter saying, you know, you're going to be done at 65. Sayonara, thanks for your service. And so it kind of throws him into a tailspin. So for the first couple of days, he's doing okay. He's not sure what he's living for anymore.
Right.
And when he loses his cat, it's the breaking point, right? Okay,
Yes.
so then what happens?
I don't know. No. Sorry, I have a cold and I'm coughing now. He meets actually up with, was it in a coffee shop? He met the young lady who helped him.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were like neighbors.
Neighbors, okay. So
A single mom.
So he met up with some of his neighbors and other people that kind of were in his community, and he decides that he wants to look for someone from his past that he was in love with at one point in time. And because of the situation with his family, they didn't want anything to do with him and the person, his love interest. So they get on Facebook, I believe it was, and they put out a message to see if they can find George. And so they do find George.
And there's lots of little sub journeys and plot twists and building. And then the chapters go forward and backwards between then and now and then and now. So it's a great little camaraderie of characters that come together to help Albert in his journey. And then he kind of builds these friendships up that you know he's not on the verge of losing himself anymore as you're reading it. The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle, it definitely reminded me of, did you watch the movie Letters to Juliet?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a little bit older, but it felt like a combination between that and
I thought it
Arthur
sounded
Pepper.
a little
Oh,
bit
yes,
like
Did you
Arthur
feel a little
Pepper.
bit of Arthur
Yes,
Pepper in
I felt
there?
a little
And
bit
then A Man Called Uwe.
Yes,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
why
what
I
I was
read it,
thinking.
because it said it for people who liked
You
Frederick
guys-
Bachman.
You guys love books with grumpy little.
We do. And apparently women who are like,
Yeah,
Are
and
older
children who
too.
die.
we could do a whole book fight on older men. There you go. So I feel like this is a good segue into our next book. Frederick Bachman is the author of A Man Called Uwe, who was a highlight of, I mean, pretty much all of the library staff's reading career. So
Except
this is
for
a
one
great
person
segue.
whom we won't mention.
In this very room that we're peer pressuring to read.
Yes. And that's okay. He just hasn't had the right book yet. So this is the brand new book in the Beartown series. It's the third one in the
Cover
trilogy.
is gorgeous.
And it even is signed. and
Hey,
it says,
don't rub it
to
in."
Maggie. And I have my own copy at home that says, to Pat.
Oh my god.
So for the rest of you, you will have to wait in line here at the library to get your hands on your copy. We're excited to read this one. Anxious People is another one of his books. Beartown. Britt Marie was here. A Man Called Uwe. I mean, oodles and oodles of books. And they come from the homeland of Sweden.
Yes.
So you get another born in a foreign location author to add to your list of books to read.
And all these books are translated, right?
Yes.
They're not.
Yes, he
originally
writes
all of
written
his
in
art.
Yes, he writes them all in
Swedish
Swedish, and
first.
then they get translated into.
So you guys have not read this yet?
No.
We have not.
So we'll have to see next episode. You'll have to see.
It's
if you read it.
60
760 some pages.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's like a tome.
Is it like a series or standalone?
It's the third.
It's
It's
the
the third
third
one of the Beartown series. So it's the Beartown, Beartown Us Against Them, and then this
What
one,
is
the
it about?
winners.
Hockey.
Hockey. Because that, Marlouse is like hockey.
Yeah, hockey.
Because that is what is popular over in Sweden. They don't care about, football or baseball. Or, they like their hockey.
Yeah, so we had a great roundup of books for today. Our next episode is going to be about death, which I feel like we really had a lot of death in today's books as well. But we're going to feature books that are more featured around the funerals and dead people and whatever else Michaela can come up with for our Book Bites episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. For our big announcement, we have confirmed news that Book Bites with Maggie is going to move to a podcast in 2023. So if you don't like looking at us, or if you are used to only listening to us ramble on about books and get excited and very excited,
Yes.
gesturing with our hands, that will not be something you have to worry about anymore, and you'll be able to turn in at your own convenience and listen to us ramble about books through your headphones. So I'm excited that that's coming down the road. Not to say I'm not a little bit nervous too, but we'll get to that when it comes here. So thanks again for joining us on today's episode. We will see you the next time.